Yes. So I did not have Hopin open throughout the presentation, so I will go and see what was in the chat.
Thanks, Rachel. So the Q&A tab is working again, so you can post your questions over there now.
Yes, please. Enabled. Yay.
In the meanwhile, while we're waiting for folks to join and post questions, Shalane has posted a question in the chat, which is for those of us who need jQuery still, will we be able to continue to include it as we do now? So this is kind of an important point of clarification about this. This has come up a couple times this week already. So we must remove our dependency on Jquery Ui, but that is a separate project from jQuery. We're trying to reduce our dependency on jQuery in core because jQuery 4 is probably going to come out sometime in the next year. And so the fewer old legacy JavaScript dependencies that we have that depend on jQuery, the easier it'll be for us to update to jQuery 4 when it comes out, because we might have a very narrow window to do that. That said, we won't necessarily remove jQuery entirely as a dependency. A lot of modern JavaScript can replace jQuery, but if you do still need it for whatever reason, even if it's not in core, you can still add it as a dependency of contributor custom theme. It'll still be available as a dependency for your contrib projects as well. So that should work out fine. It might still be in core as jQuery 4. It might not, but contributor projects can still depend on it, of course.
Yeah, welcome everyone that arrived since we started, but we only have one question so far, so we need more. Okay, so can you please re-explain the difference between deriving from the Class C theme and whatever the new process is for the starter kit theme?
Yes. So Class C is a runtime inheritance of all of the changes that is happening in core. So if we change the markup or CSS in Class C, as soon as you update Drupal into the release that has those changes, you will get them on your team as well. And then with the new team, the starter kit theme generator, the idea is that you pick a point of the starter kit theme, which is when you create the team. And then if you make changes to that starter kit theme, they won't affect your theme, which was generated from that. So it's sort of just creating a fork of that starter kit theme. And you can manually update changes from the starter kit theme if you want, but you won't get those automatically inherited from there.
Okay. Next question is, Drupal 10 branch get created? Are we waiting until the release before Drupal 9? That's the second part of the question is not clear to me, but I think Jess is probably the best to answer the question.
So our plan for the Drupal 10 branch is basically the same as it was for the Drupal 9 branch. So there's two conditions under which we'll open the 10.0.x branch for commits. The first, and probably the most likely at this point, is that when in this coming October, when Drupal 9.3 goes into an alpha status, we're going to open the 9.4 and 10.0 branches simultaneously at that time. Something that was sort of alluded to in the keynote, but Gabriel didn't really explain specifically, is that in order to make that upgrade very, very easy from Drupal 8 to 9 and Drupal 9 to 10, we actually have a Drupal 9 branch that is identical to a Drupal 10 branch, aside from the fact that the Drupal 10 deprecations will be removed and the dependencies will be updated. So those two branches will be opened together probably in October. If there's significant work that's still outstanding on our dependencies, that could be delayed. If there's On the other hand, if we're ready to go very early with some significant changes, we might open the branches even earlier. But you can anticipate probably about 6 months from now, and then develop in those 2 branches at the same time until the release of Drupal 10. So it's a good question.
Right. Now we're gonna get a lot of questions. So Patrick asks, do we have an estimate of when CK5 will be added to Drupal 9 this year?
So we are trying to work towards getting it in 9.2, which would be June this year. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So I would say that seems unlikely at this point, unless we get a lot of help from the community to get that done. But the latest would be 9.3, which is sort of Q4 end of year this year.
Okay. So Jürgen asks, CK5 seems to come with some templates. How is that different from their template plugin in CK4, asking for the WYSIWYG template module? Are they coming with some templates? I don't think I could answer that question.
Sure, what is it exactly referring to? Maybe a clarification on the chat could help, or?
Yes, please. Okay. Next up, while we get a clarification for that, is does the CK5 ability to create components in the WYSIWYG, aka the body field, mean more unstructured data and the challenges associated with that? And I think yes, it's a choice. So I think the demo that Peter showed is these info boxes that he created as a plugin for CK5 as components. So if you don't want to allow those kind of components, that's your choice on your site. If you want to allow those components, that's your choice on your site. So it's not an inherent requirement with CK5.
So good to mention is that all of that data is stored in a structured format, and the markup then, how it's rendered in the UI, is generated based on that. It's stored with the body field in a structured format.
Yep. Next one, will contrib modules be able to support Drupal 10 without dropping support for Drupal 8? Theoretically, yes. So if they don't use any API that does not if they only use APIs that exist in Drupal 8 and Drupal 10 equally, then they should be able to.
Drupal 8 is end of life in November, before or right around the time that those 2 branches, 9.4 and 10, are going to open next year. Though, so you can potentially make if your module doesn't depend on like Symfony code or CK editor code, you could potentially have simple conditional logic to support both Drupal 8 as well as Drupal 10 at the same time. But keep in mind, the security team will not be supporting Drupal 8 core. And there is no extended support plan for Drupal 8 core either, because it's, there's all these great easy tools to update you to Drupal 10. So that's something to keep in mind too. It's possible, but it probably wouldn't be a great idea, because you kind of become responsible for Drupal 8 yourself then. So.
Yep. Fun times. Will DrupalCheck and other tools that helped us upgrade to Drupal 9 face significant hurdles to help us upgrade to Drupal 10? Sorry if the keynote answered this. I was reading about Rector and PHP Stem. So I think what we were trying to convey in the keynote is that we are using the same tools on the way from Drupal 9 to 10 that we used on the way from Drupal 8 to 9. You need to use them on, at least for DrupalCheck and upgrade status, you need to use them on the source version that you are coming from. So you need to first go to Drupal 9 and then go to Drupal 10. But based on the timelines of Drupal 8 and the Drupal 10 release, Drupal 8 EOL and the Drupal 10 release, you would need to do that either way. I don't think there are other hurdles. For Rector, we need to have the people to implement the rules to automatically fix those deprecated APIs. And once we have those rules implemented, we can use them in the bot, and people can use them on their own custom code. So those are definitely things to do. They may be hurdles depending on how they're going to go. The next one, I was wondering about the status of hooks versus events in Drupal 10. Are hooks still going to be used in Drupal 10? Who wants to take this?
So this depends. If we manage to deprecate the hook system before that October, sure. The chances of that happening in reality, I would say, are fairly small. If you really, really care about having Symfony events instead of hooks, I think Nat Catchpole, the other release manager, has raised some specific concerns. There's a meta issue about this in the Drupal issue queue, and there's some specific things we need to address. There's some developer experience issues with events versus hooks. Obviously, we thought about doing this even before the release of Drupal 8, but it just, because we're building Drupal 10 in Drupal 9, it always depends on what deprecations and additions we make before that deadline. So we wouldn't block the release of Drupal 10 on that. If it does get committed to core, then that change would happen. At this point, I think it's probably not that likely because we've only got 6 or 7 months left, and lots of other work that is critical for security. That work isn't. But if it's something that you care about, you can help out on that issue, help resolve some of the DX challenges, and put us on a track so that maybe in 10.1 or 10.2 we could deprecate as well.
Yeah, the goal of the Drupal 10 Readiness initiative is not to deprecate more things. The goal of the Drupal 10 Readiness initiative is to get Drupal 10 out on time, secure, and make it an easy process. Those are our goals. So we are not focusing on deprecating more things. That's not our focus. Next one. Why isn't Rector rules required for all deprecations, same as change records?
I think this would be a great direction. I think that right now we don't necessarily have people available to write the Rector rules, but I would be very excited to see a policy that at least made it a best practice to add a Rector rule for any deprecation. And I think we're heading in a direction where maybe for the next major release that could be a policy.
Yeah, we've been discussing this, but yeah, there's definitely there's always a balance of the steepness of contributing to Drupal core versus the value that you are getting on the other side. Next one is, will you be adding more core committers to help with the ongoing core commits to help reach the new version goals?
So fun fact, we actually have wanted for a long time to recruit an additional release manager. We have, if you are very conscientious about the sort of disruption of changes that are made to core, and a very careful reviewer, if you're focused on schedules and pay a lot of attention to core policies, maybe this could be you. So if you're interested in becoming a core maintainer, a good way to demonstrate that is by contributing in core issues related to these upgrades for Drupal 10 and helping triage after the critical issues that come in after we do a minor release, that sort of thing. Or apply to become a provisional member of the security team. Those are 3 paths that you could demonstrate that you have sort of the skills and knowledge to be responsible for core. So it's definitely, I would say that right now we have a committer team that's a fairly good size when all of us are active to get all of the changes committed. Committers aren't the bottleneck for the most part, especially with things like CK Editor. There's just a lot of development work that needs to happen. And once stuff is RTBC, it does get committed. Sometimes like lately, we've had some issues that have been outstanding for more than a month, but then, and there was for a while where the queue was like something like 15 issues long. So it's the main problem is when one of the core committers goes on vacation or something, then stuff slows down. So Yeah, it's something that we would consider, I think. Dries obviously approves any appointments, but it is something discussed from time to time.
And we've also added 2 new front-end component committers recently, because part of the reason is because we realized that we have all of these front-end things that we need to deal with, different initiatives arriving at the same place. So I think we got clarification on the CK question, did we? So once again, the question was, CK Editor 5 seems to come with some templates. How is that different from their template plugin in CK4, asking for the WYSIWYG template module? And the clarification we got was that the demo showed some boilerplate for CK5.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that plugin for CK Editor 4. What I can tell is that how it works in CK Editor 5 is that you can store sort of custom elements in the as part of the markup, and then as a CK Editor plugin, you can define how that gets rendered in the view when it gets displayed in CK Editor 5, and you can create a Drupal filter, which then creates that markup for when it gets rendered on an actual page. So that's how it works in CK Editor 5. I'm not sure I can make a comparison to the plugin in CK Editor 4.
Cool. So I'd be happy to get a couple more questions. I think we still have a few minutes left. I'm trying to find my proof of how long do we have this session.
While we have a lull in questions, I just want to encourage people to come to contributions. The mentors are there to help you, and we'd be very happy to have you join us.
So we got a question about pronunciation. What modifications can be applied to the palette? I don't know. I can pronounce palette of US people to help them pronounce non-US names correctly by the time Drupal 10 ships. I think 2 of us are non-US. I'm from Hungary. Laurie's in Finland. I don't know which names did we mispronounce. I'm sorry. It happens. All right. And all right, we're getting more questions now. So the CK5 fancy single widget dialogues, are there JS events we can hook when they open and close? For alt text and that kind of thing, I guess, and link editing.
Yeah, I think there are hooks within the CK Editor 5 API that can be used to override the functionality that is happening there. So something that is how the CK Editor 5 works is that they have a limited number of sort of multiple places extending the same thing. Most of this provide opportunities to override existing functionality. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, WYSIWYG versus CK Editor. Why focus on one more than the other, and is one better than the other? So I think I tried to briefly explain this, but we've had an exploration time when we were looking at what to replace CK Editor 4 with, because it's somewhat similar to how you need to re-platform from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8. CK Editor 4 to CK Editor 5, you need to rewrite your plugins. We need to provide an upgrade path for some content. So there's a lot of different things that we need to work with, and we were looking at other alternative editors. And the problems we found were basically that we would need to write all of these transitional things for Drupal users either way. And we didn't find any of the other editors so much better that the that the requirement for us to write our own transitional solutions outweighed the benefits. And with CKEditor, the CK source, the company behind CKEditor, is very connected with us. They attend our meetings. We have video meetings, I think twice a week or every other week, where we discuss how things go. And they're very helpful in figuring out the solutions that work for us as well. And they were even with Drupal 8, if you go back, that they implemented the CKEditor widgets API because we needed widgets for Drupal, and they implemented a whole API in CKEditor to support that. So yeah, so they're very, very friendly with us, and we like them. And their editor is also technically good. So
one technical clarification there, and this question was posted in the keynote as well for the WYSIWYG. WYSIWYG is actually also a core module that CKEditor depends on. It provides an API for different WYSIWYG editors to integrate with core. So that was moved into core during the Drupal 8 development cycle by the Spark team, especially Vim Leers, or Vim, if not, since we've been talking about the correct pronunciations of folks' names. So that module, you can still integrate other WYSIWYGs using the WYSIWYG API that's in core. It's just, yeah, this CKEditor is the one that we standardized on for core, and we're going to continue with that.
Thank you for the clarification. So I think we have 4 more minutes. If people have more questions, then we can still continue. Okay, if not, do we have questions to each other? What are you most looking forward to in Drupal 10, Kristen?
Oh, that's tough. From the audience, I'm guessing CKEditor 5 is a big winner. I just love that things have gotten easy to upgrade from one major version to the other. So yeah, I mean, just that's just so huge. But yeah, everything else is great. But personally, that's the winner.
Has a good related question for us, which is what would you count as success by the end of contribution tonight? I think that probably each of us could answer this one. For me, the thing I would just love to see is more contributors to our 2 major JavaScript development. I think the CKEditor 5 work and the Jquery Ui, Jquery deprecation work is right now the most at risk. And so I would love it to have more people who really know modern JavaScript to help us out with those two initiatives. It would increase our chance of success a lot.
I'll chime in quickly. My success would be you showing up and just being there, and we can chat and try to figure out what works for you, have a good experience, and then maybe you'll be inspired to keep contributing.
Corey, what would be success for you?
Yeah, I think it would be just to see some front-end folks join there and have a good experience, get set up with a environment that they can use to contribute, and maybe find an issue at least to take a look at and start figuring out if there's something they could do to help on that.
Yeah, we have a lot of variety of tasks that we need people on. So whatever you want to do, you can work on the Drupal 10 landing page. You can work on testing things. You can work on writing tests for things. You can work on country modules. You can work on core. You can work on more documentation. As our marketing spiel says, that is UI 10 contribution today, and then you can put Drupal 10 experience on your resume already, because you already have experience with as much as we know Drupal 10 so far. So Patrick asks, many amazing modules remain in alpha or beta for very long periods of time. Can you give some guidance on whether we should rely on such modules and some reasons that they don't go stable?
It's a chronic issue. One of the issues is that just maintainer availability, and which is part of why we're having the biggest subsection of our contribution time this afternoon is related to helping contrib maintainers upgrade from Drupal 8 to Drupal 9. That will help those modules be ready for Drupal 10, and in some cases we might need to recruit new maintainers. Another reason that modules might remain stuck in alpha or beta is that maybe the maintainers are available, maybe new maintainers have stepped up, but they might not have the get vetted user role. There's a security review process that a new maintainer who hasn't been a contrib maintainer before needs to go through if the module already has security coverage. So that's a specific kind of scenario that was actually described in the session earlier this week. But for the most part, usually I think it's just a matter of, just tag it. If your module is used on 10,000 sites and 9,000 of them are running that beta successfully, go ahead and tag it. That way it gets the security coverage. Be bold.
All right. Well, thank you. If you have contrib modules you haven't tagged stable releases for Drupal 9, it's a good call to action. It's one of our contribution topics. And with that, we ran out of time now. So feel free to hop over to other interesting sessions. We have a lot of Drupal 10 content today. So go over and immerse yourself in the specific topics. Thanks.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.